Hello, workmates. Welcome to Work and Talk in PH, your go to podcast for lifestyle insights, career convos, and real estate realness, where chill convos meet real life lessons because hashtag it works.
So we're joined by the couple behind EmergePH, a human-centered learning and development company that's been empowering leaders and teams all across the Philippines. One of them is a strategist and systems thinker from the US. The other is a proud Filipina coach and leader deeply rooted in her community. Together, they build something powerful and personal. Please welcome Harrell and Gladys Palarca to the podcast. So happy to have you guys, Ellie and Gladys.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for squeezing us in your busy schedule. So let's start. You should share with us your intercultural, experience as a couple running EmergePH. How do you guys make it work?
I've been here 11 years and I think I understand the culture pretty well for being an expat. I've been deeply kind of studying it, I think. So the things I've seen in Gladys having some challenges working with me have not been surprises, but some of them that I've seen have been she had a hard time speaking her mind in the beginning, like when she didn't agree with me, sometimes thinking that I'm inferring or implying something when I'm just actually trying to be curious and I want to talk through something. I want to make a decision together and I'm just asking questions, but she's reading into my questions that I have an opinion that I'm trying to drive at. I'm like, I don't communicate implicitly. I communicate specifically and explicitly, So there's been just background cultural things, but overall, I don't see it as a major challenge, really.
I think just any other relationship, may it be with a different race or even with Filipino, I realized that it all boils down to values alignment. I think it was 3 months in the relationship or 5 months in the relationship, we did this values ranking exercise. And I realized that Ila and I
did a values ranking exercise?
We
wow.
did.
Can you run us through it? That's something new.
I think it's
wow.
We run these as workshops.
Yeah, we do that. And I realized that, oh wow, we both value openness and continuous growth and learning. And I think the continuous growth and learning value has been the core for us to overcome whatever challenges that we're going through, because we realize, no, we're not the enemy. We're here as a team.
Yes.
And maybe communication for me was a challenge, but I'm glad that Eli believed that I actually have the potential to learn the skills. And I also did my part because my partner believed in me. I started believing in myself. I started devouring a lot of content and videos, crucial conversation, like followed Esther Perel, learn a lot of different framework in terms of how to clear disagreements and arguments with my partner that have been so
okay,
helpful.
Gladys, you need to share me those links.
Totally, I'd love
That communication, I think, is very crucial in relationship, and I think as Filipinas, we're not trained to be as, I think, open and speak our mind. I think we need improvement on that.
Yeah, we're actually
sometimes we say okay, but even if it's not okay.
Yeah, so having courageous conversations, or if you want, there's different ways to look at different names for it, but basically the scary conversations that we're often avoiding without realizing it is one of the most important skills that anyone can build.
I think that's super crucial.
That's the stuff
I think in the team, right? Courageous
that's the stuff that we
conversation.
Do. Yeah, exactly. And like going back to the values thing, that was just a big shift in my whole life journey, was when I just kind of realized I'm having a hard time making big decisions in life that I really align with, and then staying true to them because I have competing values that I haven't ranked. And what that means is, maybe you value both freedom, maybe security at the same time, or you want autonomy. Like there's different things we value, right?
Oxymoron, freedom and security.
Sometimes they conflict, right? And so sometimes you need to make a big decision, and you got to kind of decide which of these do you care about the most. And if you haven't stopped and really thought about that, you'll just be constantly flipping back and forth. And then sometimes you'll do this, and sometimes you'll do that, and then you back out, you bail on this commitment because you realize later, like, wait, no, I value this. So I think it can really help us to do that. Check out Brene Brown. She has a values hierarchy tool on her website, I think, that you can do for free. But sometimes we do free workshops on that. If you ever know anyone that wants to do that for a community, we'd be open to.
How were your lives before founding EmergePH? Like, what are your educational backgrounds? I know Elia's telling them that you didn't finish school, but you love, learning. And it's about, having that mindset of really learning. And school doesn't guarantee success. It's really about your mindset of learning. Maybe you can run us through this learning experience of yours.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it pretty short, but I grew up in the US in the 80s and 90s when homeschooling wasn't really a thing yet. Now it is. Now it's pretty popular. My mom was way ahead of the curve, but I was the eldest of 8 kids and we were homeschooled. Wow. Coincidentally, I also kind of grew up working in my parents' business, so I learned a lot about hard work and efficiency and systems and wanting to get home. But that's setting that aside, I'll just focus on kind of learning itself. So I was not raised on the traditional education to employment path that most people are wired for. So I didn't have this belief that you have to have a piece of paper to get a job. And there definitely were times when I was in my early, let's say in my 20s, where I was pretty insecure and worried that it would be a disadvantage. But to be honest, I don't think it really ever has been. The big advantage has always been that I learned how to be a self-teacher and I learned how to be curious. I had a lot of free time on my hands before the internet. I used to read encyclopedias and dictionaries and whatever I could get my hands on, and kind of realized one day that even though I was homeschooled and there were these curriculums and curriculae and then like books I needed to read, things I needed to do, I at some point realized like the things I learned that changed me were only the ones I wanted to learn, not the ones somebody else kind of made me learn. It was always when I was curious and I pursued it that it actually became part of me and meaningful. So I've just been always a self-teacher, and my kids, I thought it through really deeply. My kids didn't go to school and they even did less curriculum than me. And another topic for another day, but my son is like one of the most well-read, educated, knowledgeable people you will ever meet on so many topics, and he just learns because he wants to.
And I think
it's a really important thing, the mindset of really wanting to learn and really interested and staying curious.
Exactly. And I think Eli influenced me in that kind of mindset. I remember the first time that we had coffee, we actually had a little bit of debate because what he said earlier, this wired mindset of you need to have a diploma, you need to have a degree so that you can be successful. And I have such a strong belief in that when we met. But I'm glad that I kept an open mind. I just agreed to disagree, but in my mind, like, oh, it's different from you because you're a foreigner and it's different. You cannot understand us here in the Philippines because we have 11 months of being with Eli. I was influenced in reading a lot of books. He has a lot of books in his house. And when we lived together, he asked me to quit my job. And at first, it was nerve-wracking for me because I always pride myself in bringing something to the table, especially financially. And when I realized, like, oh my God, I have to quit my job. And I don't like to cook. I don't like to clean. What value can you bring?
We're the same, Gladys.
So when I was washing the dishes, I remember Eli mentioned to me like, hey babe, I didn't ask you to quit your job just to do the household chores. I rather see you reading a book than cleaning the house. We can hire someone to do that. And I was like, I'm going to take you up in that offer. I love reading books. And 11 months of just having the time and energy to be more intentional, be a self-teacher and reading a lot of books that I'm interested in, mostly in psychology and relationship. And after 11 months, I actually had the courage or the guts to ask Eli, like, you know what, I remember your vision for Emerge and what does it take to keep us, to push that Even though I
Yes.
don't, that just gives me the idea of
Yes.
like, you know what, you just have to have an amazing idea to start a business and then gather the right amount of people who can support that. So
What inspired Emerge? Like Eli, like what was your aha moment? Like, I wanna start up Emerge in Dumaguete. I know you always say why not Dumaguete when people ask you why Dumaguete. Say why not Dumaguete? How you got inspired to really set up something in Dumaguete?
The logo, the green, the logo, it didn't have the PH on it back then, but the Emerge logo started in 2015 actually, and it was the second year that I lived in the Philippines when I spent about 15 years in the US really focused on trying to build businesses, working really hard, but was not really working on myself. And it led to some really big challenges in businesses falling apart, and I sort of was on this personal development journey around the same time that I came to the Philippines. So I've been reading a lot of books, watching YouTube videos, podcasts, very self-development at that time. And when I was in the Philippines, I kept meeting people through hiring, through social, that I kept seeing so much potential in so many people that I was meeting. And I would sometimes share with them resources that I had read that had inspired me to learn about myself, to really grow, right? And what I kept noticing was that Filipinos that I was meeting would often say, yeah, that's really inspiring.
Yeah.
But they would always come back and say, but here in the Philippines, this phrase that we've heard a million times, right? And it kind of made me start to realize, like, wow, people really have kind of limiting beliefs of what's possible because of what they think about where they grew up. They really don't see who they could be or what they could do. So it goes all the way back to 2015. I used to run a Saturday morning course for young entrepreneurs in Cebu called Emerge. That's what it was way back then. But I've been thinking and talking about it for like 8 years, and I was getting a little bit clearer about what the model might be. The only thing I knew for sure is that we had to tell stories of people who have transformed themselves, who live next door. Because if it's not relatable, like if it's not somebody you can relate with, you can just discard it. Like, yeah, that's an inspiring story, but if they grew up in Australia, it doesn't count, right?
Yes.
But if they grew up in your neighborhood and they had it worse than you can't say that it doesn't count because it's inspiring, right?
Yes.
So that's all I knew. That's the one thing I knew we had to do. But I'd been talking to different people about it, and then until finally, I'd actually thought I found a few co-founders to go with it, but not until Gladys really grabbed it, and she was the one that. So I'll let you kind of finish the story, but those are the roots. This is what actually happened, though.
And really wanting for people to have self-belief in themselves and really, showing proof that they can be successful in where they are right now. Is this correct, Kelly?
Yeah.
exactly.
Seeing their potential. Yeah.
And when I heard Eli share that story with me, it was somehow emotional for me because, here is a foreign guy actually seeing so much potential in Filipinos,
Yes.
seeing so much potential in me. And I'm like, do I really have that? Am I really
I know,
good at
Ellie,
that?
you need to share that to as many Filipinos. I think that's really lacking in our country, that self-belief that our dreams can come true here, and that, you don't need all these diplomas to be successful. It's really your mindset of wanting to learn. With technology, everything can be learned, right? With all the tools
Exactly.
that we have out there.
Yeah, no, that's a super huge point that I usually talk about, but I didn't say anything about this yet, but you just did. We should be so focused on how freaking lucky we are to live right now, because 200 years ago, you had to go to the schoolhouse with the teacher, with the books. 50 years ago, pretty much kind of the same. Like there was just limited access to the knowledge. Now, that is not our issue. We have pure free access to all knowledge that has ever existed. Like if it's ever been known, you can know it.
Yes.
The only challenge is how to actually go learn it, right? How to put the ideas in, how to change, how to rewire
Yes.
yourself. It's not the access anymore. So we're very lucky that we have the ability. Any of us can decide kind of who we want to be in the future. It's just, but it does come down to, can you have a vision of your future self that inspires you to do the work? Because if you don't,
I like that vision of your future self.
yeah, that's the key. That's what kind of inspires us to do the work on ourselves, right?
So when you work with companies and you work with their team on really bringing out potential and bringing out the best in them, program normally lasts how long?
Good question. We have a lot of different things we can do. One of our foundational principles that we try to really stick to is that the best way to learn is with others, right? It needs to be fun, relaxing. We need to be able to have conversations about what we're learning. We can get new concepts and principles and kind of have these aha moments, maybe in a seminar or a workshop or, facilitated session, or even reading a book. But it's not until we go test it in our real lives, and maybe we're a little skeptical or maybe we're optimistic, either way, it's only when you test it that you find out that you didn't quite understand it right all the way. And the way you tried to apply it didn't work. And when you can come back to other people and have conversations about that, that's when you start to kind of map the new idea into your actual mental map of the world. So we need to learn with other people, and we need to learn across time.
Yeah, for your group sessions, like you'd recommend like maximum of 30 packs?
Yeah, typically. Depends on what it is. Could be lower maximums of 20. We try to spread learning across time. There's facilitated sessions. Those should not be too long. People don't really absorb that much, especially today's brains. Like, we don't like to sit and listen for 3 hours. So digesting, fire hosing doesn't work. Should be 60% practice, 40% theory, facilitated sessions. And then what we do is we use technology, micro learning in between. So let's say there's a session on week 1 and week 3, so 2 weeks in between. Daily 5 minutes to 10 minutes of micro learning and engagement with the cohort. And we usually would run 5 or 7 week or maybe even 9 week programs. But when we work with clients, we also try to make sure that there's even follow-up after that. So 2 months later, 6 months later, how can we help our client install in their meetings, revisiting these topics on a regular cadence? Because otherwise people will just kind of, oh yeah, that's right, 2 years ago we did that thing and we didn't ever really make habits from it.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to install systems once we learn ideas as well.
And most of your clients are in what industry or sector?
So far, it's been a lot of companies that have foreign ownership, no surprise, outsourcing small to medium size, or even a little bit bigger, but not the biggest BPOs. But surprisingly, also brick and mortar traditional Filipino companies that also realize they are losing their young talent, their young leaders are leaving to be freelancers, and that they've got to change something. So there's actually a big change. There's a big shift, I think, happening even in traditional companies that you think are very antiquated, that they know they have to get better. And they're trying to figure out, how do we invest in people? How do we create a better culture where people will stay and grow?
Yeah, I think the challenge now really with the new generation that, it's really about retention. It's not like before where, like in our generation, my colleagues and I, I've been with colleagues for 13 years. Like, it's normal for people in our generation to stay in a company more than 10 years. But I think with the newer generation, they're more impatient. And it takes a lot for them to really stay and see themselves in the company long term. So what you guys are doing are really helpful for companies to have that messaging to their employees that they can bring out the best in them in their company. What challenges in learning and leadership are you seeing, like, in the Philippines?
There's a lot. Some of the big cultural ones are the things we learned in school, kind of going back to our first topic. Filipino culture is wired to be very compliant and try not to get it wrong. And so there's a hesitation to take risks and to speak up. So, because, I think school kind of taught us to, I shouldn't say
just
us.
Follow the rules.
I didn't go to school here, right? But I relate with this culture so much now. I just say us and we.
You're correct, right, Gladys? We're so we follow the rules.
Yeah. And, don't question things. And there's a lot of hierarchy and deference as well that's built into the culture, so that we tend to put leaders on pedestals or assume that leaders are in a higher position instead of leaders thinking that it's about service. So people don't want to step into leadership because then it's like, oh, now I'm better than my friends and I'm going to have to bring them disciplinary actions. Like, it doesn't sound good. This has happened across the world. We've had top-down command and control leadership styles in many countries, but it's been shifting in other countries. And I think it's starting here where, if you look on LinkedIn and if you do a search for titles that have people, culture, heart, like there's these non-admin HR roles now popping up in many companies. So it's a big trend, but it's a big challenge as well to shift the kind of the mindset of leadership to be not so hierarchical and more of service.
I think Gladys more in the provinces, right? Cebu and Dumaguete, like they're very obedient and like do you see that change happening now with technology, with the younger generation and the clients that you work with?
Yeah,
Compared to Metro
this
Manila, I
morning.
think this is more like a concern for for the provinces.
This morning, I just facilitated an emerging leaders program of 27 leaders, and it makes me feel hopeful and excited when I engage in those kind of leaders and we talk about strengths in team. As a leader, you don't have to be the expert in everything. You can just be the one who spot what are the strengths in each of your team member and actually tap into those strengths. And there's also this idea, because I experienced this when I was a first-time leader of delegating tasks. I was afraid to delegate tasks because, I get this place where, I'm really good at what I do.
Yes.
And it took me so long to get good at it and to just delegate it to someone. I feel like it will take even more long time to teach the person instead of just doing it myself.
Agree.
And I feel like that was a bottleneck for me in really upskilling myself and upskilling the team. So maybe it feels hard at first to just tell them or guide them what to do, but in the long run, you will be grateful that you did it, because in the long run, you can step out of that position and actually trust that the person you've trained get it. So I'm seeing that shift now.
Yes. I think the most important thing is trust, not to micromanage, and really just train and really trust the person or your team
extending trust. Like if you want to see people perform more into their potential, like trusting them is one of the biggest ways that will happen if you micromanage.
And I like what you said, Ellie. Being a leader, it's about service, about caring. Like in our team, our mantra is caring relentlessly to our stakeholders and partners. It's really how to be able to, be of service than just doing the job.
Agree. Hey, I got to push back on something you said about the provinces. Are you from Manila originally?
Yes, I'm from Manila, Ellie.
So, first of all, from my perspective, Cebu is not a province. I have to say that. It's
not anymore.
No, but I actually think that younger people I don't think it matters where they're from. I think that Gen Z gets a lot of flack for being entitled and wanting too much before they've even delivered value. And I don't disagree with some of those things, but I also think that I love working with really young people. And I think
so Alexa and Des and Mao here are part of the Gen Z. I agree with you. They're really hardworking, and it's really about getting the best. Really guiding them and inspiring them to bring out the best in them.
Yeah, I think that there's less hierarchical wiring in people at that age, and I just really love working with young people, and I think there's a lot of future leaders in their 20s right now that are going to be pretty amazing leaders, actually, that are learning a lot that some of the older generations kind of just didn't learn because they didn't have access to some of those ideas. But anyway, I'm excited for the future,
Ellie,
especially.
I know you get this question a lot, but I need to ask it because it needs to be heard by as many people. Is again, why Dumaguete? I know you're gonna answer why not Dumaguete. Maybe you can share with everyone, why
Well,
Dumaguete?
okay, so I didn't answer this about the business, but the business is not really necessarily set up here. I lived in Cebu for 9 years. Gladys is from Cebu. Basically, I've been coming to Dumaguete for a long time and just loved being here. We didn't know when we moved here that we were going to be starting this business. It happened right around the same time. It's been a really lucky thing that we've just had access to nature and been in a really nice place to build something from scratch. But we need to be in Cebu and Manila pretty often for, network and clients, etc. For me, number one reason, access to nature. It's a great
Access
place.
to nature,
It's a great
yeah.
place to feel like you have everything you want in a city, but you still have amazing access to all kinds of nature. And good food. But just wanted to get out of Cebu. I think it was Odette kind of messed up where I lived there, and then I was like, why do I live in the city? I don't actually have to be here. So,
And that's how you ended up in Dumaguete.
and then we built a business that requires us to be back in the big cities.
So that's so perfect. What does EmergePH do differently when it comes to education?
What do we do differently?
Yeah.
Go.
I think the phrase that comes to mind is learning how to learn, because the knowledge is already there. But filtering what you learn, who you learn from, is actually a skill that not most school don't teach. The school mostly teach you, at least in my experience, they just teach us how to memorize things.
Correct.
They just give us a lesson, a pre-agreed lesson already.
Without the critical
created.
thinking.
Yes. So now when I get into this journey of learning how to learn, I realize there are actually topics that I'm more drawn towards, and also how can I really absorb the learning. And so in our facilitation, in our workshop, I really put a lot of time in breakout room session, because for me, when you're able to articulate the things that you heard from the facilitator, that means you're getting it. That means you're understanding it. And I think that's the best way, one of the best way on how to get that learning stick.
That's super well said. We don't really get taught how we learn, and we don't get taught how to learn based on how we learn. What I mean by that is, if you just understand a few things about, let's say, just neuroscience, which Gladys just touched on, if you understand a little bit about how plastic our brains are, in other words, how rewirable our neural pathways are, we can rewire the physiology of our brains. And that was something I didn't actually know until maybe 2014. And when I realized that, and I also read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, and I started thinking like, oh my God, it matters so much how learnable you think things are. If you think that you are not good at math and you keep telling yourself I'm bad at math, you're never going to learn math, promise. But if you think, oh no, I'm just not very good at math yet, because you think, oh, math is learnable, like that is already just night and day difference, right? Yeah. But also when you start to realize you can actually rewire your brain, and most people don't even know that. Okay, so I can actually make myself smarter. What? And then I could make myself learn faster. Well, this is one of the things, like, how do you learn faster? Well, you don't just listen. That doesn't really work. We don't remember stuff very well. We have to engage our physiology. We have to realize that at night, our brain is going to take all the stuff we've been listening to during the day and try to map it into our reality. And speaking to someone else, what you've learned, is the fastest way to actually rewire your neurons. So nobody teaches us this stuff, right? But so teaching people to take ownership, I'll just kind of say it very similar to what Gladys just said. Not just how to learn, but number one is taking ownership of your own learning, right? It's like, because we don't get taught that. We think sort of with maybe subconsciously, we're assigning learning to someone else. We think it's the job of the teacher. We think it's the job of our companies to give us, whatever. No, it's our job. Like, nobody will ever go around with you and tell you what you should know. You have to decide, what do I need to know? How do I learn it? How am I going to make the habits of learning it? That's our job. So taking ownership of your own future self.
That's really important. I think if everyone listens or be parts of Emerge PH sessions, then this is the right path to success. At the end of the day, I think why we're here is really bringing out the best potential of every single person we meet, and ensuring that they're happy and contented and making the most really of what they can learn, leading them to the path on how they can learn, having that mindset of how they can learn and being the best in this.
Yeah, we can inspire people to start to believe who they can become and like how much we can grow and learn, right? That's number one. And that, again, stories of seeing other people do it, that's the most inspiring way. Remembering what you've already done, if you look back and think of who you were 2 or 3 years ago, and Gladys is giving me too much credit. She was already doing a lot of work on herself before I met her. That's why I was interested to know her, because that's what I look for in people. Is number one thing I learned is you cannot make anyone do anything, not sustainably. You can inspire them, you can support them, but you can't make anyone do anything. So you want to look for people that are already
self-starters.
They're in a point in their journey where they're starting to question things and be like, this isn't working. Maybe I need to look at new things, and you can inspire people at that moment. But
I think it's also challenging to incorporate fun in your sessions. How do you incorporate that fun characteristics when you implement your programs in a very heavy data-driven
business world?
Yeah. How do you insert fun, Gladys? Or how do you keep especially the Gen Z focused? Well, when people are so impatient already nowadays.
I really like to make all the sessions engaging because I need to be entertained too. So I always try to use emojis and engagement, really asking them like, oh, how do you feel right now? If you want, can you choose an emoji that actually express how you're currently feeling today? And I also love starting my session with just a grounding meditation because our mind is so busy. Most of them just came out of their shift from work. So I just want to help them feel relaxed as well and come into this present moment and always remind them that, this is a place for you to have fun and to learn from each other. So just having those encouraging words, and so far, I'm actually very happy with the kind of engagement. And for me, I'm also learning from them. So always asking them about their thoughts, their ideas, not just me talking all the time, but, encouraging them to speak. That works for the sessions that I've been doing.
It's often people think that to make things fun, we need to insert some games and stuff like that, right? Which can work as an icebreaker or whatever you need to stretch, but can also be a little distracting. What you ideally want is for people to start having fun because they're getting excited about something about themselves, right? And so for me, it's a lot about pre-work, is making sure that people show up knowing what's in it for them. If as many people as possible are there because they are choosing to be there and that they feel like it's going to be personalized for them. And helping people understand that it isn't about the person talking. That's not the key. Like the teacher, the facilitator is not the star, right? That person does not actually need to be the expert necessarily. It's about your peers. And it's about the ideas that you're getting and trying to get a new concept or an old concept with new nuances and really think about how it maps into your life or how into your experience and into your memories of who you are, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then why not? And when people start to really do that integration in their minds with a new idea or something that they're like, oh my gosh, this could actually be valuable, it starts to be exciting. And in and of itself, it can be fun, as long as people feel very, very safe that everybody's there for the same reason, which is to learn. There's no egos. There's no, I know this already. It's not, there's no test. There's no, showing yourself. It's just being there to those are the keys for me.
Just to listen and no judging.
No judgment. It's not about knowing. It's not about what you know, right? Actually, knowledge has almost no value these days. It's about your ability to show up and listen is actually more valuable than to show what you know.
There are a lot of people out there who didn't get to finish school or don't have access to formal education. What message do you want to give them?
For me, again, being a self-teacher is so much more valuable than actually going to school, at least for my own. And some people don't have the privilege to even go to school.
Yes.
And if you're someone like that, if you're in that situation, it's not the end of the world. Maybe for me, being in a situation where I cannot continue my studies because I got pregnant early. Therefore, I need to actually take care of my kids' work. But that life experience was able to teach me of resilience and was able to teach me the value of hard work and determination. And I think those core human skills is now very important because with AI, with ChatGPT, you may not be the expert, but you can just ask and it can actually give you data. So just telling everyone that don't diminish your value just because you don't have a diploma or just because you don't have a degree. Because wherever you are, whatever status you came from, you can always bring value to people that you talk to. And I learned that from Eli, and I'm believing in that now. I'm seeing more of that.
Yeah, well said. I would add that, whatever luck you had when it comes to the family that you grew up in and the school that you went to, even if you went to the best school, that what you learned in school is going to be irrelevant, or it's going to be outdated within a 2 years, right? And it's only the people that really take ownership of constant self like making themselves better, constant learning, will be the ones that, especially as fast as things change in today's world, right? So kind of isn't as relevant as it used to be, whether you end up going to a great school or not. I mean, obviously that's an advantage if you do, but it's not such a disadvantage as you think if you don't. It's not a blocker. And some people will push back and they'll say, yeah, but you can't possibly get a job without the diploma. I'm like, yeah, you think that, but you actually can. If you know the right people, like if you are known as somebody who brings value everywhere you go, and I love telling this story, but I really believe in it. I know multiple people who have actually took me up on this and it worked. If you find a company that you want to work with because you've been studying that company, you know their culture, you know what they do, you love what they do, you care about their mission, and you go to those people, whatever you have to do, you keep emailing them, you keep finding somebody who knows them, you get one opportunity to say something, and you say, I will do anything you need, including cleaning the bathroom for free for 1 month, as long as you give me access to understand what's happening in the company. And if I don't become valuable enough that you hire me for something else within 1 month, that's fine, no problem, we're done. Give me a chance, give me 1 month.
That's such a great advice, Eli.
And you tell them it's because I care about what you do, right? You go to that company, you say, because I love what you do, I've been following you, I know about your passion, I know about your purpose, and I want to be here. So who's going to say no to that?
Correct.
Right? I guarantee it. It's like, if you really do that, it will work. And it doesn't matter. Nobody cares where you went to school. What they care is, can you come in and solve problems? Can you come in and see a gap and make something better? And it's just, there's lots of people who come into companies with diplomas and they still have to start over because everything in the company is completely different from what they learned in school. And they're not really set up for it with the right mindset. So that's it.
Agree. As you look to the future, what excites you the most and what's next for EmergePH and, for the Filipino leaders?
It's very exciting. I want you to actually share about that. I think that's a segue to where we're heading.
It's a scary time to live because things are changing so fast, and it's impossible to predict very much. But I think each of us currently have an opportunity to see what's happening and realize that AI is not going to really replace us as humans if we learn how to use it, right? So I think all of us right now have an opportunity to get ahead of the game and really understand that we can make ourselves 5 times more valuable by learning how to automate our own workflows. So whatever you do right now, you probably have not documented your workflows that well yet. But if you do, you can start to figure out how to automate those, and then you can start to figure out how to build your own AI agents that do pieces of that workflow. And at some point, you would be able to do 4 or 5 times more work than you do now and actually do less work. So it's pretty exciting, I think, where we're headed if we think that way. But what's even more exciting about that is that will free us up to do much more meaningful human work rather than the monotonous, mundane things that we used to value. We're going to be able to spend time on really understanding other people's problems more deeply and innovating more. And I think the Philippines is positioned in a very interesting way. A lot of people are keen on this economy because very young workforce, still having babies, speak great English, a lot of amazing things. So much creative talent here, and a lot of empathy. So there's a huge strength in Filipinos that we need, which is that human understanding. And we need less tech thinking. We need less logic. We need more empathy. But we also need innovative thinking, and that's something that Filipinos are going to have to kind of learn how to be critical thinkers, question things, break down processes, figure out why it doesn't work, ask better questions. Like that's probably the biggest skill set that Filipinos and all humans need to be is better at is better question quality. But I think it's pretty exciting. We're excited because we think also learning can go faster, and we're currently raising capital to build a platform that will eventually enable facilitation. So, earlier we were talking about how humans need to learn together.
Yes.
And it needs to be in some part of that learning experience needs to be in a live session with other people. That means you need facilitation. And currently that's a bottleneck to learning because it's hard to get everybody together at one time. You got to have like 25 or 30 people to make it financially viable, to have a great facilitator present. We think eventually AI will be able to do that part where it's just the peers getting together and the facilitation of the actual learning session can be done with AI. And that's actually what we're going to build so that you could do a 12-person cohort at 2 a.m. and it will still and it doesn't cost as much. So I think that those are some of the things we're excited about.
Yes, keep us posted. Gladys, anything more that you want to add?
I think just excited about the idea that, we feel deeply passionate about learning and helping people how to learn. And if we can scale that in a way where it's not limited to just how many people I can facilitate, but if we can build an amazing AI tool who can actually replicate that would be amazing. Like in a span of a year or two, how many learners can we actually tap? And I'm excited for that.
And finally, anything to add, Ellie?
Yeah, just one thing, which is that I think the Philippines is known for a lot of things, but I don't think it's internationally known for leaders yet. And a lot of the skill sets that we're trying to upskill people in are the core skill sets of leaders, right? So coaching skills, collaboration, creative thinking, like just all these, having courageous conversations is absolutely critical to leadership. And I think there's a lot of people in the Philippines with so much potential to lead really well because of the empathy, because of they're tuned in to how people feel.
Yes.
Problem is we're just currently not very comfortable having good conversations about that stuff, right? But compared to leaders in the West who often aren't that tuned in, that's a big disadvantage. So I think I would be excited to see a future where Filipinos become known as really good leaders.
With your help, Ellie? We're gonna have more Filipino leaders.
There are a lot of good ones. I'm not saying there aren't, but I don't think that's what
More.
they're known for, right? So yeah,
Yes.
I want to see more young Filipinos like really step up and be servant leaders.
I think we need to, I think Filipinos just are, a majority are shy. So we just need to get out of our shell to do those courageous conversation, to be out there, sharing our creative thoughts, and you're correct about coaching all these skills that are vital to be a good leader. And finally, what does investing in human potential mean to each of you? How can we as individuals and as a country be part of that? I mean, really investing in human potential.
It didn't land for me up until I started in the journey, in the personal growth journey. And as what Eli said, before we met, during pandemic, I was grateful that actually pandemic happened because it allowed me to reflect on where I am at and who do I want to become. I grew up in a very poor family, live in a squatters area, and have 2 kids. And I thought to myself, like, is this going to be the life that I want to continue living? Is this going to be the kind of life that I want my kids to grow up in? And who do I really want to become, and how can I be that person? Just having the quality question that you ask yourself, I realized that our brain is very good in answering whatever question we ask. So if we ask empowering question, it will give us an empowering answer as well. And I always, as a mother, I feel, what do you call that? I feel guilty investing in myself. I feel like, there's a lot of guilt there. But I realize you cannot pour from an empty cup. If I don't invest in myself, then I will stay in this lifestyle, in this situation. But what if I invest in myself and I will, level up? Then that means I could actually bring my family up. I can, help my kids. And also I can show them, I can be a model for them that learning doesn't stop when you finish studies. Learning is a continuous, journey, and you should never stop learning. And for me, I always feel excited whenever I learn something. I feel like there's progress in my life. I don't feel stuck or, limited. I always feel like that expansion, and really grateful that I get to work into something that allow me to expand in that way. Like education is just it's an opportunity. There is a big opportunity there because it's always changing. Yeah, that's for me.
Very inspiring, Gladys. Thank you for sharing.
Love that. Yeah, I think that's spot on. And there's a lot of things that hold us back from investing in our own potential or other people's potential. A lot of things, including family obligation, being crazy busy, thinking we have no time, TikTok, blah, blah, blah. There's always things, right, that we can sort of fill our time with. And we're really good at that. And that can be our habits, where we're just living this life that's just so full. And again, like if you remember back to COVID, when you kind of couldn't you were so goddamn bored, right? You had nothing to do. There was this empty time. Some people filled it with working out, with learning, with reading books. But now we're back to this life where we can just fill it all the time. And even with AI potentially freeing us up to some degree, we could still fill all of that free time, that free focus with blah, blah, blah. And if we stay in that habit, we won't really invest in ourselves more. So I think the best thing we can do, which is really what Gladys said, is make the decision that it is way worth it to block out time in our lives to invest in ourselves, whether that, for now, what that means for you. We run this workshop called the Clarity and Unlock Workshop. And if you want, we can give you a link to this self-assessment. It's basically just built to answer 60 questions to look at where you're at right now with yourself and your life. And at the center is self-development and self-relationship. And then you have all these kind of spokes like renewal, ideas in, personal energy. At any given time in life, there are things we are doing well with and things we're neglecting without realizing it. So if you aren't putting ideas in, if you're not reading books, if you're not watching podcasts that are kind of inspiring you with new ideas, maybe that's a place you want to put some attention, right? So the thing is, like, invest in yourself by making time, block out time that you protect for investing in yourself, and show other people you're doing that. Be that example for your kids, be that example for people in your family, and show them why you're doing it. Don't, if they are like, why are you doing that? You're supposed to be at the birthday party, you know, whatever it is. Like, tell them, like, no, I blocked up this time because I have to invest in myself. And if you show that example, I think that's kind of how we can shift. We have to do it that way, because otherwise we'll just go with the flow of what everybody else does, and we just won't prioritize it.
We'd love to have that link so we can help, promote EmergePH not only to our community but to clients as well, Gladys and Ellie.
Thank you. Appreciate the time. Thanks
I
for
know it's
making us-
2:26. They're giving me last 4 minutes. So thank you so much, Ellie and Gladys. Your story is a proof that when you invest in people, real growth follows. And that growth isn't just happening in boardrooms or classroom. It happens in communities and conversations, and most importantly, in ourselves. To our listeners, we hope this episode sparks something in you. Whether you're leading a team, finding your purpose, or still figuring it out, remember the potential is already there. You just have to build the right environment for it to thrive. Don't forget to follow Work and Talk in PH for more episodes like this, where we highlight work that matters and the people behind it. Thank you again, Gladys and Ellie, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Work and Talk in PH, your go-to podcast for lifestyle insights, career convos, and real estate realness, where chill convos meet real life lessons, because it works.